So I'm thinking about this quarantine, and I realized I have some things to share about the quarantine. I am a homeschooling mother for 10 years. I've been a stay-at-home mother for 15 years. And I have spent almost every waking hour and many sleeping ones with my children. I have 4 children, and one of my kids is on the autism spectrum. So I know a little bit about being quarantined, so to speak, in the day-to-day life. And one of the problems with homeschooling is there's a big misconception that people that homeschool are exceptionally patient, that we all wear long skirts, and that, we are just like Mary Poppins. And that could not be further from the truth. My patience, the little bit that I do have, has had to be developed over time with the Lord's help. And anything I've learned, I've had to learn the hard way. And we don't have perfect kids either. Our kids are just as naughty and bad as everybody else's kids. And so there's just things that I have learned that I felt like I needed to share with you, because I think that this quarantine could absolutely be one of the most blessed times of your life if you are not somebody who gets ill, and if you are just going to be home with your kids for the next 3 weeks when they're out of school. And I think it could be one of the most blessed times of your life, and I would encourage you to look at it that way. And so I am going to share a couple of things that I have learned about being with my kids over the years that have been incredibly helpful. Tip number one, screens are not your friend. Screens are like a uncle who's a lot of fun that's a horrible influence on your children. And I have found that when my kids start the day with a lot of screen time, a lot of TV and downtime and movies and things of that nature, it is very difficult to get them to engage in anything meaningful the rest of the day. And if I do get them to engage in anything meaningful the rest of the day, I have to fight attitudes to get them to do that work. And it's just not worth the payoff to me. We try to use screens as a reward, and that works very, very well. And it's very fine when you're all sitting down watching something together. You're watching something for educational purposes or to learn something. Screens are wonderful, especially in a quarantine when everything is closed and you can't go do anything fun. And so, that scientific principle that says that objects that are at rest stay at rest, and objects that are in motion stay in motion? Yes, that's your kids on screens. Don't start the day with screens. Number 2, lean into your children, not away from them. I am not a particularly patient person. I am a type B personality on the surface, but a type A on the inside. And so when I have things that need to be done, I want them done right now, and I want them done well. And having that type of personality and just being a selfish sinner is very difficult when you are dealing with your children all of the time, because they are not mature enough yet to follow social rules that of being polite toward you, being polite toward their siblings, and it's very difficult to live in that environment for a long period of time. And so the natural bent toward a parent is to pull away from them, put them on some screens, give them something to do. Go hide in the bathroom, hide in your phone, hide in the closet, lock your bedroom door. That is how it feels when you are with them all day long sometimes. And what I have found through the help of God, truly in prayer, is that if I give them a little bit of myself first, I will get uninterrupted time for myself later. And that is really hard to do because it goes against what your natural flesh wants to do. But that is what works. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about on this one. How do you lean into your children? Well, instead of cooking alone, include them in your cooking and make it really fun. If you have kids, if you have an island, a kitchen with an island, we lived in a house for 6 months where I had a kitchen with an island. My kitchen is notoriously tiny for anybody who knows me. And I had a kitchen with an island for 6 months. And one of the most fun things that we did was we played cooking show on TV. And I used a whisk as my microphone, and I cooked right there with the children, and they were my audience on the other side of the island. And I described everything I was doing, and I would let them sample food, and they would clap, and we had a great time with cooking show. That was a lot of fun. The other thing you can do to include your children in your food preparation is to play restaurant, especially if you have little ones. You have one who makes a menu up, and you have one who sets the table, you have one that helps you cook, and you have one that serves the food, and they can serve you. That's what I did. I had them serve me. I was the customer after I had cooked everything, sat down, and I left them a tip. It was only $0.25 because I'm a cheap homeschool mom, as most of us are, because it's necessary when you're on one income trying to educate your kids at home, that you be as frugal as possible. And they loved that. That was a lot of fun. Another way to lean into your children is to read aloud. I cannot express to you how much my children love me reading aloud to them. Of all of the things that I can do for them, me reading aloud to them is the thing that they like probably the most. We will pick a good book, and don't think that your kids, don't underestimate your kids' intellect. You can pick a book that is way more difficult than what you think, and they will love it. Some of our favorite stories have been Caddy Woodlawn, a story about a family in the 1800s, a big family. We also liked The Hatchet by Gary Paulson. We liked Sticks Across the Chimney, and I don't remember the author of that book. What we really are enjoying right now is the Ralph Moody series that starts with the book Little Britches, and we are on the second book called The Man of the Family. It's excellent, true story. Caddy Woodlawn is based on a true story. The Little Britches series is based on a true story. And if you really want your kids to be appreciative, and yourself, because what you're going to find is by reading aloud, the person who learns the most in homeschooling is always the mama. She learns character development, and she learns grace and how to be patient, and that she learns that she is insufficient and she needs to lean on the Lord for what she needs. That's what you learn as a homeschooling parent. If you do that, pick The Long Winter by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Laura Ingalls Wilder was very kind when she called that book The Long Winter, because it should have been called How We Nearly Starved to Death and Had to Twist Straw into Wood to Keep from Freezing to Death, and our Pa and Ma lost 50 pounds apiece and we all almost died. That is what Laura Ingalls Wilder should have called The Long Winter. Picking crafts to do with your kids that don't cost a lot of money. Now, I have found the best crafts are when I use recycled material, cans, empty toilet paper tubes, if you are so lucky during this quarantine to have those, paper towel rolls, hot glue gun, things from outside, pine cones, rocks, whatever. Give them a task and have them make it. I had my kids make the Hanging Gardens of Babylon one time with egg cartons, and they absolutely loved it. We only had one hot glue gun burn, and so I consider that to be a success. Stop animation with Legos. One time I had them tell a story. I had them tell the Christmas story using stop animation, and they had to make each scene and take a picture of it, and then we tried to put them all together, which I never really did get that part finished, but I didn't see them for 4 hours. They really enjoyed that activity there. And so there's all kinds of things you can do to lean into your children. And when they're doing the stop animation, you get some time to yourself. Take this opportunity to teach your kids some things. You know, we're always talking about how one of the complaints I've heard a lot of people say about education in general is that there's a lot of gaps and lapses in education from what you learn in school to what translates into being an adult. Things like taxes, finances, laundry, how to cook nutritiously, how to read food labels. Do that. You have a blessed opportunity. If you are allowed to be at home with your children right at this time, don't waste your opportunity. I see this quarantine as a gift from the Lord. I really do. I think that our society would be a lot better if we had time to spend with our families. The other thing is look at things that you can do to grow personally and professionally. You know, pick up a good book that's challenging. I use times when it's quiet in the winter to read a classic, something that I didn't maybe read when I was in high school and that I might need to learn for my children. I have done a lot of Bible studies during this time and just gotten into the Word of God and learned some things that I've wanted to learn and ask Him to show me things that I've needed to see. Another thing you can do to lean into your children is to take a nature walk. Sorry, I should have put that before, but I'm not good at this off the cuff speaking very well. Is take a nature walk outside. Find some leaves, whatever you can find growing. Find evidence of spring. Go home and look it up online. Listen to the birds. Figure out which birds are in your area, and identify them and learn more about them. There are so many things you can do during this time to really draw close to your children and to really nurture that love that you already have for them. And I would just encourage you to look at this time as an opportunity. So thank you for listening if you've made it this far. And let me know in the comments below on the video what you're planning to do to use your time for. I keep thinking there was one other thing I was going to say. And if your spouse is allowed to be home, what a blessing. What a blessing. You have an opportunity to nurture your marriage and your relationship and just to spend time with each other. You can write letters to one another. You can write letters to grandparents and to other people, write letters to soldiers overseas. Oh, there are so many glorious things that happen when you are at home and nobody's telling you what to do and you don't have to be anywhere at a certain time. What an absolutely beautiful blessing that you have at your fingertips. Don't waste it within fear. Have a good day.